Change is inevitable in our lives, whether we like it or not. For example, aging and becoming older is inevitable, or experiencing life and its different circumstances is inevitable. For example, illnesses, changes in relationships with friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, and whatever circumstances. And there's two ways we could sort of deal with change. You could deal with change in a positive way, or you could deal with change in a negative way. Let's touch upon the negative way, being reluctant. What is being reluctant? Well, essentially, I visualize reluctant as essentially running away from the change in our lives, running away from something. For example, you recently get a girlfriend, and that requires you to change your routine and the way you approach your day to day activities. However, if you're reluctant, you will be running away from those priorities and commitments, and instead going back to your comfort zone. And we all know what that does. When you're in your comfort zone for a prolonged amount of time, reluctant to move out, that limits growth. It puts boundaries on ourselves because we're just hiding in our comfort zone. We don't want to get out, and we're not willing to get out. We're not willing to embrace the change. And that brings me on to the second way we can approach change, the positive way, and that is embracing change. But wondering, what do you mean by embracing change? But embracing change essentially means that we step into into the uncomfortable zone. We essentially equip ourselves with the ability to adapt to the differences in our life. We give ourselves the ability to assimilate, improvise, and deal with the changes head on. See, I know that many of you probably dealt with drastic changes in your life, potentially ones which really impacted your lives adversely. I'm going to give you one, and you probably know this by now from my past episodes, but I have a disease called chronic pancreatitis, which essentially is a disease which impacts my pancreas and its normal day to day function. And because of this, I experienced so many changes in my body, some of them being adverse changes, and actually most of them being adverse changes. Now, let's take the two ways we could deal with this change. The first one, reluctant. At first, with all honesty, I was super reluctant to this change. I was running away from this diagnosis I've recently received. I was running away saying I don't have it. I'm not going to make any changes in my life. I'm going to go back to my comfort zone, try to live the life that I once had. For example, that meant eating the same food, living the same routine, and doing the same things. But that only left me lost because I had no growth. And I knew internally that I had to do something else to just develop as a person and also do the right things so that I can deal with this new change in my life in the most effective manner. And that's when I moved to the more positive way of embracing change. And that's, as I just said, embracing change. I embrace the fact that I do have this diagnosis and there are changes within my body. How can I adapt? How can I pick myself up and ensure that I can live for a long period of time? And not only that, how can I ensure that I'm happy and content with who I am? How can I accept the new way of living? How can I implement and optimize my life to ensure that I'm living the best possible way, in the best possible way? So, embracing change has so many powers. And we all know that life will beat you down to your knees, man. It will beat you down with changes which you just don't want. Either illnesses, changes in the job market, changes in the stock market, changes in the food consumption. You don't even know. Changes just occur out of nowhere and you don't want them. And life will just beat you down to your knees. But it is so crucial as to how you respond to the change. You want to pick yourself up step by step. And you don't want the change to just keep you there. You don't want it to keep you there, especially the negative ones. You don't want to let the change hold you down. You want to allow the change and utilize it as a leverage to becoming a better person, as a leverage to step out of your comfort zone into the uncomfortable zone where you experience the most growth and you widen your boundaries and develop as a person. So that's the idea of just embracing change. Embrace it. As recently, I was not embracing change. And quite frankly, I realized that I was not growing as I wanted to. For example, changes in my work environment, changes to where I lived. I was super reluctant. And it made me ungrateful. It made me complain every single minute internally and to other people. And it was super annoying. because I knew that I could assimilate, I could develop much more. And that's when I recently started to embrace this change at work, in my life, with different relationships, and say, right, this is a life. I'm gonna pick myself up, you know. I'm gonna pick myself up. I'm gonna develop. I'm gonna step out my comfort zone and try to expand my boundaries and become the person I want to become. This change is not gonna limit me. I'm gonna leverage this change. So I want you guys to do the exact same thing. You should leverage, embrace the change, whether you like it or not, because changes are inevitable. They're inevitable. They happen in every single direction. So yeah, this is the quick video I wanted to post because yeah, it's super essential that you guys get it and you guys see where I'm coming from as well. And yeah, if you guys have any input as well, I would love it, to be honest. I would love it. I really appreciate you guys joining me here today. Yeah. Thank you guys and see you next week with another motivational video. No, another video which is informative as to how we could optimize our lives and become better people.